Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I would like to introduce to you two guys, two mics, and possibly the best sport podcasters in the world, Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny. Are you not entertained?
Welcome to Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny.
I'm
Johnny.
Smitty.
It's my old coach back in the day. Now we're just a couple of guys talking sports. We love sports, and we talking about nothing else but the Super Bowl, some football, and what our teams need to do in the offseason. So let's get right into it, Coach. What do you think?
Yeah, you know what, man? I enjoyed it. I mean, me and you used to go back and forth during the day and going back and forth on different topics and everything like that, man. And I'm glad that we actually have a platform where we can get our thoughts out. And, I'm not the one to hold back too much these days. And I know you're John, you're not one of those either. So you know what? You want to listen to some sports, you want to have some fun, guys. I mean, this is a community where we just want to get some positivity out of sports, man. And it's okay to have your own opinion. All right, Johnny.
All right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right into it. So topic number one. So obviously the Eagles dominated the Super Bowl, start to finish, wire to wire. Jalen Hurts was Super Bowl MVP. So let's get into his complicated legacy, Coach. So obviously, one of the big things about Jalen Hurts is is he the kind of guy who can like lead your team there, or like is he ultimately a system guy? And he has some turnover issues, earlier in his career, but this year he kind of cleaned that up. So I'll let a Cowboys fan let's go Cowboys fan. What do you got to say?
Yeah, I know you had to throw that in there, Johnny. I was waiting for you to get a chance to throw that Cowboy thing in there, because if you can't tell by his shirt, he's a stout Wisconsin fan, and you know what that means. That means he's that dreaded Packer fan as well. You know how much us Cowboy fans love those dreaded Packer fans, but I just knew you were going to throw that in there. So either way, I'll get started on there. Jalen Hurts. You know what, John? This is very hard for me because I'm just not a fan, naturally. And I'm going to try to keep it right down the middle here with him because he's an Eagles fan. And they keep winning, and we keep losing as Cowboys fans. So, I'll put it this way. You know what, man? I really like Jalen Hurts, man. I really, I'm a person that really appreciates the underdogness of, where he's coming from. He got a position taken from Tua, which is in the league now, and which is prospering and doing pretty well on his own, at his own pace. And but is he, and I know, jump forward a little bit, I'm just really is he a product of the system, man? I think his legacy is that he's won a Super Bowl, so he can go into the pantheon of, I've won one Super Bowl, like the great Trent Dilfers and the great Roethlisbergers. I'm being sarcastic, but either way, you know what? Brad Johnson. Yeah, everybody knows Brad Johnson, just rolls off the tongue. But either way, that's where I'm at, John. I mean, I'm at where, okay, he's won a Super Bowl. He's proved that he could get it done on the biggest stage. I think really the MVP to me goes to the Eagles and the way that they have put together the team. You know what I'm saying? They gave him a running back, man. They are one of the ones, hey, this is at you, Cowboys, that didn't want to go and get Saquon. You didn't want to go and get your stud receiver. Then they, to some extent, took a chance on the number 6. Can't think of his name. Devontae Smith. They took a chance on Devontae Smith, in the first round, which was very uncharacteristic of them, going out and getting a receiver that early. So, but on his legacy, I just think that he will go down as a good quarterback. I'm just saying, if we just close the book on him right now, he would be a good quarterback. He showed up on the biggest stage. He had a good defensive performance. But I do think that it is a little overcast, man, because you know what? He did have the number 1 defense in the league. He did have the number 1 and number 2 statistically offense around him. Then we can always, get into the other aspects of it, John, about the tush push. I mean, we can go into that, and does that put a little damper? You know what, man? You kind of took advantage of the game and took advantage of the rules, and you're scoring all these touchdowns. But I mean, let's look at his Super Bowl, man. I mean, the man had like 215 yards. Yes, he had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were rushing. One of them was passing. I'm just saying, man. Did he do the super comeback like Tom Brady did? I mean, to tell you the truth, you know what? I felt that special feeling in my gut when I saw Tom Brady. I just remember this, man. It was like 2001. I was sitting in the guy's basement. Yep. Everybody was like, "Oh no, that guy's not going to do anything or whatever like this, man." And he took down the greatest show on turf, man. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm just saying,
And the rest of history.
What'd you say?
And the rest,
and then the rest was history, John. They're never going to beat them. Blah 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 blah. And you know what? We can stack check each other later, and me and John will put together a video if I'm off a little bit. But either way, greatest moment that I remember, and I'm like this, man. That Tom Brady is going to be somebody special. Do I feel that from this first Super Bowl from Jalen? I will have to say no. So that's where I feel his legacy is. I just think that, you know what? He won a Super Bowl. Won it with a really good team, did what he needed to do, does his job. And I know we're going to get into it a little bit later. How does that translate? But that's where I'm at with him, man. I just, you know what, on the Smitty meter, man, out of 10, I gave it a 5. I mean, I just say, look here, man, congratulations to you, man, and great job to get it. And I don't know how many Super Bowls that he will need to win to really changed my mind, because he still is who he is. And you know what? We've seen, little segue, the Brock Purdy's of the world that turn back into a pumpkin when things ain't going their way, But
and you look, and to piggyback about that, you mentioned like Brock Purdy. Like, I just think like Jalen Hurts, he's a dynamic player though. Like he definitely, like you say, that you think about the tush push, like he's a guy who can definitely look like a running back out there. Like not even like actually like a running back too, not like Lamar Jackson, who people like say he's a running back, like, oh, he's like a running back, but Lamar is, Lamar needs no introduction. I think Jalen Hurts, the thing is, he's proven it not just at 1 Super Bowl, but 2 though. Because actually, you could argue he had a better game, the first one that they lost. He and Mahomes went toe-to-toe. I mean, he actually looked like an elite quarterback in that game. So one thing about Jalen Hurts is he has proven, like you said, that he can do it on the big stage, that he can get the job done. Because no matter what kind of team you have around you, like as a quarterback, you need to prove you can get the job done. And in the playoffs, it's more than just being about being a game manager. And to even in today's game, which is, leading more back towards the run, as opposed to like you mentioned like Trent Dilfer, and I mentioned Brad Johnson. Like these were QBs that it was all about the teams they had, the systems they had, and everything like that. All they had to do was just don't make mistakes. But Jalen Hurts, now it's an era where, it's not like it was in the 2010s where you had to almost have a prolific QB to win. But you got to have a guy who gets the job done, who's dynamic and fits the team around him. And to that point, also, we want to talk about we talk about the team. We also want to talk about the scheme too. Let's talk about the scheme. Kellen Moore is now going to New Orleans to be the head coach. How's that? Like, let me ask you, Coach, how do you feel like that could impact Jalen Hurts too? Because that was quite an offense that was tailor fit for him that Kellen Moore put together, and now he's in New Orleans with a kind of a messy situation there, but that's a topic for another day.
You know what, John? You know what, man? You bring up a good point. And my opinion on that, man, is that, as a football coach on the high school level, man, I always say that it's 99% the athlete and it's 1% the coach. But without that 1%, we can't be at 100. And without that 99, we can't be at 100. And that's the way I've always took at coaching, because you know what, man, fight another day, Jimmy's and Joe's versus X's and O's. But at the end of the day, we've seen the impact that he had on the Eagles. We've seen that impact. We understand when he was with the Cowboys, man, they led the league. They were like number 1 in the league. And it wasn't like garbage points
Exactly.
either, man. That was like 2 12-5 seasons under Kellen Moore. I mean, the man knows how to run an offense. That was some of Dak's, in my personal opinion, better years under him, the way that he thrived
Oh,
under
absolutely.
under Kellen Moore. So it's one of those things. I mean, we can go look at the stats and we can just see how proficient that he was, and then the creativity. I mean, we understood what you Packer fans were talking about when that lack of creativity came, when oh boy, my man, man that can't be named. I'm gonna call him like Voldemort now because I really don't want to mention his name no more. But either way, uh, I mean, I'm just saying.
I'll be nice and not mention him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mention his name, but either way, all jokes aside, that's my biggest thing, man. I just think that Kellen Moore has proved that his offensive mind on multiple levels. And yes, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yes, was I skeptical about him when he took over at the Cowboys? 100% I was, because Jerry just likes to hand pick jokers that says exactly what he wants them to say and do exactly what he wants them to do. But to his credit, he's worked hard, he pushed himself hard, and obviously we've seen that. Once again, going back to the organization of the Eagles, man, what have they done well? It's like, what have they not done well? Let's get us a quarterback that can toe the line. Let's get us a running back, which we're going to segue to in a minute. Let's get, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what have they not, John, done right? I mean, I'm just saying, man. Let's put together a defense, man. Getting the big cat from Georgia at the defensive tackle. I mean, I'm just saying, man. I mean, just the Pete's.
Zach Bond, what a steal he was.
Yeah, Slay. You know what I'm saying? Slay. You got my boy. Mm-hmm. Hey, look here, go Iowa. I mean, how in the world are you saying that we're gonna go and pick? We're gonna go and pick the boy from Iowa. You know what, man? And this man, and somebody told me that he was going to have the Super Bowl that he had, and it wasn't just a pick. He had a great Super Bowl. He pretty much locked. He locked him down, man. No matter if it was Hollywood on him, whoever. I mean, he played really good defense, came up and helped support the run. I mean, cheers to him as well. But, getting back to the offense coordinator, man, I don't know how Jalen's going to be, because I think that he's an offensive coordinator guy. When it comes to a Dak, we've seen how it affected Dak, because Dak has limited resources as a football player, and we've seen how it affected him. So that's where I'm at, John. I really think that I'm going to love to see what's going to happen next year when a new offensive coordinator comes in, because you know what? I think that 1% that Kellen Moore gave them when the call of tush push, man. I mean, I'm going to go on my 30-second rant here. I was very impressed by Kellen Moore when I think it was the second half of the NFC Championship game, and he basically went away from Saquon and tried to establish the passing game and did a lot of rollout passes. So that was really good for them, because that really disrupted Washington's box. That really got them out of the situations that they wanted to play, just stack covers with too high. And it really got him on the edge, man, and got him out of that 8-man box and loosened it up. And then he retracted and went back to it in the fourth quarter. So that was great on him. So I think it's going to affect it. I'm going to throw it back to you. What are your thoughts on how the offense coordinator is going to, really affect them? Because we've kind of agreed upon that, you know what, he might be a system guy. So,
well, my thing is this, like, obviously it's a system guy, but it's also the guys you have around you, which I think can almost segue into what we're talking about here. Like, with our next topic, like Saquon, he needed no introduction this year. He was the best running back in football. I mean, nobody even came close. We had some good backs this year, which just goes to show what a special year he had. And to that point, like, I think that if you have the personnel that can get it done, and the thing is, you bring a coordinator in, he has already seen what's worked. Nick Sirianni has already seen what's worked. He's been to 2 Super Bowls now. And this year he won one in convincing fashion. So you've seen what's worked. So it's like a new offensive coordinator is not going to be able to come in and just hijack the system and like completely do things his way. There's going to, you have to tailor to your personnel. You also have to see what has worked. And you got Jalen Hurts, you got Saquon Barkley, you got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Dallas Goedert. Wait, isn't his contract up this year? I heard something about that. But Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you could plug a tight end there because I mean, Dallas Goedert was an underrated piece of that offense for sure. And then even with Jason Kelsey retiring last year, you still had one of the best offensive lines in football. You had Lane Johnson, who's probably a future Hall of Famer, and then you had I forgot the guy's name who stepped in for Kelsey, but he was a Pro Bowl center this year.
And they
So
say that he's arguably one of the best centers in football. Like he's probably the top 5 centers in football. Once again, John, I'm going to say, what have they not done right? What have they?
exactly.
I mean, from a system standpoint, man, like what have they not done right? Goodness gracious,
Yeah, especially and even more so from a front office standpoint.
And hey, John,
I mean, their GM
let's do a
is
mic check real quick. I'm like looking at you. I don't see your mic moving up and down.
oh, okay. Wait. Oh, wait. So yeah, mine. Yeah, I see us moving up and down on my end.
Okay,
What about
good.
yours?
Yeah, I just don't see it on mine. So we're good. We can continue. Let's continue.
Yep, I see yours moving up and down though.
Yeah, and I
a
don't
little
see.
bit.
Yeah, I don't see yours moving up and down. Maybe because I have my headphones in. Hey, you know what? Post. We'll figure it out. Keep going. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, we'll cut all this out. Yeah. So yeah, but like when you just look at like the genius front office they have, obviously getting Saquon and Zach Bond, we barely touched on him. He was just a bit player in New Orleans. He was just like basically a rotational linebacker in New Orleans. Comes into Philly and has arguably the best linebacker in football this year, and he continued it in the playoffs. So it's just like being able to because it's not just about being able to make the big moves to get a Saquon or someone like that. It's also about let me turn my volume up a little bit. All right, let's see if that works now. But if you look at like it's not just about being able to get the big time guys and being able to make the big splash signings and the big trades. It's also knowing how to plug the holes, knowing how to find the guys who can fit, knowing how to find the guys who is he due for a breakout year. It's like sometimes you don't even expect it. You'll sign a guy and be like, "Oh man, we paid all this money for this," and on the flip side, you'll get Zach Bond and be like, "Whoa, how did this guy become the best linebacker in football after being a bit player for a mediocre team?" So,
And you know what,
yeah.
John? That moves us right into the next one, my friend. The importance of fit.
Yes, sir.
The importance of fit.
Mhm.
Like let's put it where it is. That moves us into our next segment, man. The importance of fit. I mean, we always hear about, like I said, the Jimmy and Joe's debate, but we don't look at it, man. Is that some of these NFL teams have, just like all the way through high school, man, you have a certain footprint that you have, and therefore it fits certain athletes. And, I think that sometimes it's fans, man, we want to get down on people because we're making things fit for somebody to thrive, and obviously we have the outliers. We have the Tom Brady's that you can just be like, hey, look here, Tommy's going to Tom. You know what I'm saying? He's going to read it down. I mean, we've seen it with the Peyton Mannings of the world. We've seen it with the Drew Brees. Aaron Rodgers. We've seen it with Drew Brees. I mean, we've seen it with these guys, man, is that it really don't matter. Brett Favre, it really don't matter what system you're in. They're going to do what they do. You know what? They get a new offensive coordinator, man, then the offensive coordinator more fits towards them instead of them fitting for the offensive coordinator. And we're starting to see that like with the Lamar Jacksons now. So I'm going to swing it forward you, and then I'll close it out. I mean, what is your unfit? What does it really matter, John? At the end of the day, is it how important is it on the Johnny meter? How important is fit?
That's a simple question, Coach, but complex answer because what you're looking. I would say it depends on the player you're looking at. Like the names you threw out there, I would say 3, 4 out of 10 at best because those guys can thrive anywhere. But if we're talking about a Jalen Hurts, we're talking about a Russell Wilson,
Dak Prescott.
I know this. Dak Prescott. And here, even though this is like a not so good example from a production standpoint, the 10 out of 10 fit, if you think about it, was Tim Tebow that one year he played with Denver.
Yep.
Because if you remember, John Fox completely changed that offense around. Like that was like nothing you had seen just to accommodate Tebow, but they found ways to win games. Obviously, they weren't that good of a team. And obviously John Elway, who would not many guys would know better than him. John Elway knew that Tim Tebow was not the long-term answer, so he went out and got Peyton Manning that offseason. Or you look at oh man, I just
John,
had one of the
just a
coach.
slight interrupt here. Going on the thing with Tim Tebow, man, that was really kind of the onset, if we really want to look at it, man, that was really the onset of the RPO and zone read. I mean, really, that was one of the introductions to the league. I remember that, because we really didn't see a lot of RPO and zone read things in the league until Tim Tebow, and they kind of adapted what Urban Meyer was doing with them. But floor's back to you.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, and you mentioned Urban Meyer. I'm glad you threw that right in there because it's like you saw in college even teams didn't really know how to defend the zone read and that kind of speed option attack that he was running because you had Tebow, and then you just had a bunch of fast guys, fast little backs. Like I can remember some of the names like Chris Rainey, Jeff Demp, some of those other guys that were at Florida. Those guys were they weren't all-American type players, but they were gone in a flash. They got in the open field, they were gone. And then, like you said, they just fed off each other. And nobody had really seen, and nobody knew how to defend that because nobody knew how to defend that. When they ran those types of things. So you had the QB power run thing that Tebow did. So, and then like you say, he kind of brought that to the NFL. But the other example I was thinking of too was the implementation of the Wildcat offense back in 2008 with the Dolphins. I mean, Chad Pennington was their quarterback. Chad Pennington, he was the ultimate journeyman back in the day. He had played with the Jets and with the Dolphins, but that was when you had never seen a running back taking the snaps and the quarterback lining up at receiver, even though obviously it's going to obviously be a running play, but nobody had ever seen this before. So it was a novelty because you notice the Wildcat ever since that year, or when West Virginia was running it with Pat White, and Steve Slayton and those guys.
Rest in peace, Pat White. If you've seen that hit, Pat White on the sideline. When he was playing for Miami, and he was trying to get to the sideline. Rest in peace, Pat White, because that was a career ender, sir.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say. Rest in peace, Pat White.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you, Coach. That was, man, when that happened, I was like, ooh.
That was nasty.
Yeah, it was. But just back to the point, you look at that offense, you look at or we haven't even touched on one thing that we're really getting to. What about Russell Wilson with Seattle? I mean, that was the ultimate fit too, because Russell Wilson put up some great years in Seattle, but notice now obviously he's a little older, so there's that too. But notice how he's been I guess you could say mistake free with Denver and with Pittsburgh, but those offenses were consistently ranked near the bottom of the league. So it was there were people out there who would say, well, it's not really his fault because he's not playing that badly. But yeah, they didn't make a lot of mistakes, but you saw those offenses didn't do much. And even in Seattle, if you really want to be honest about it, their offense ranked in the near the middle of the pack, but they were just kind of tricky. And you had Marshawn Lynch there. You had receivers who were kind of unheralded, but they knew how to make plays. And Russell Wilson, he knew how to get outside the pocket. I mean, what else could he do? He was 5'11". He can't see over anybody. So he had to see through the gaps and roll out. And that offense was just very much tailored to him.
No, and you know what? And you're right, man. And I just think, once again, being in just the high school coaching realm and being just a football fan, I just think that fit is 100% important. I think fit is 100% important as a coach. I think that, we have not tested it yet, but I think with a guy like Patty Mahomes, man, when you see their skill set and they'll be able to create and to do different things, you just go to the point that he's a person that I would put right now on that level of being able to fit anywhere. I just think that if you put Patty Mahomes on any team, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he can fit anywhere just because he is just 100%, from his ball speed, from the way that he can extend the pocket. Some of that stuff is not Andy Reid, man. It's just Patty being Patty. It's just, and it's like it was Favre being Favre. I always joke with Favre as much as I dislike the man just because he played for the Packers. He is from Mississippi. He is from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and I still and I love him to death because of his lineage from there. But man, I saw this man in a golf outing, John, throw a 40-yard dart to somebody in the stands, sign his ball, and throw a 40-yard dart to him back in the stands. And I think Brett was like 51 or something at the time. Like I said, just crazy, man. I mean, the man arm strength, in my personal opinion, I don't still think that, you know what, if God blessed anybody with a howitzer, he gave it to Brett Favre. And once again, though, but that arm strength, like we're always looking for that magic person in the NFL draft, John. That's the same thing, man. It's that arm strength. It's the arm strength. It's the processing ability. And I think that you being able to do those things travel. And that's why I think that even when Patty loses, quote unquote, the legs, he's got the arm strength to make all of the throws. If he has the time, he's going to be over it. It doesn't matter what system he's in. I can see him like a Peyton Manning that goes somewhere towards the end. Somebody like a Brady that goes towards the end and take care of his business, and they can win another Super Bowl somewhere else easily.
Right. And, you know, another, you know, I want to throw another QB out there who I feel could thrive anywhere, and that's Josh Allen. I really feel like he could get the job done pretty much anywhere. Like, that looks like he's a guy who's got all the tools. I feel like Lamar Jackson is like that. I think, like I said, we mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is definitely like that.
So we're gonna have to hit this topic, John, for a different day, because me and Lamar have a love and hate relationship. Me and Lamar Jackson has a love and hate relationship, my man, because it's just like, first person I see flashes, John, of his brilliance. And I love him, man. And he's another one. He's got like that flick, that Vic flick, I call it, man, where he can just flick that thing out, man, and it can go like 60 yards and he's not even trying. But once again, though, do we get into the processing? Do we get into, I see that he's trying to not use his legs as much. But once again, though, if that's not his game, you know, but that's a topic for another day. But still, out of the quarterbacks you named, and I think Lamar can get there. See, that's the thing that I think about him. I don't think that he's quite there yet to like at that level of a Patty Mahomes where it's like, hey, man, I can just plug and play him. I can put him in Baltimore right now. We still, and we're going to rock and we're going to be in the AFC Championship game, you know. Do I think he's there now? No, I think he needs some time, but I think that he can grow, and he has taken leaps and bounds with being there. You know, John, we'll hit this for a little bit. What is the possibility of just fit in other sports? Let's bring it out a little bit. Is the fit is needy or as much as it is in basketball? Or is in baseball? I mean, is fit in it more important, or is football, as they call it, the ultimate team sport?
It is. I would say, honestly,
you got 11 guys at one time trying to work as one.
But if you want to talk about fit, the first other sport you mentioned is where I give that a 10 out of 10. Like, especially with role players, like certain stars like a Kevin Durant or a LeBron, they'll Kevin Durant, LeBron, or Luka Doncic, anyone like that, they'll go, or if Giannis ever leaves the Bucks, they'll go wherever and do what they got to do. They'll go wherever and average what they average now. That will happen. But if you look at like role players, it is ultimately about fit. Ultimately about fit. Because think about this. Like, PJ Tucker, when he got traded to the Bucks. The Bucks don't win that championship without him. The Bucks don't win that championship without him.
I agree.
But see, he's one of those rare role players that up until a couple years ago, when I feel like he's just got old and is pretty much washed up at this point, he could fit anywhere and do his job. See, but like, I think, like, for example, Draymond Green is a player who would not have had the career he had if it wasn't for playing in Golden State all these years. And I was watching a couple NBA YouTubers who talked about this. Like, there were some other players who were big time role players on really good teams who now are just kind of fading into anonymity. Like Marcus Smart, he's a player like that. You remember how he was with Boston? He was like the heart and soul, the linchpin. Yep. He won Defensive Player of the Year once,
for sure.
Like, and you know what was crazy about Marcus Smart too? Is Marcus Smart? He was such an inefficient shooter. He often shot like around 40% or like high 30s, but like he he knew how to almost disguise himself as more of an offensive threat than he was. It's kind of hard to explain that, but if you actually watch the games, you kind of see the point I'm making there.
Oh no,
Back when he was
he
in
had great ball
Boston, and
movement. He had great ball movement. He was moving
Mhm.
without the ball. He would do a lot of the slip screens and get out on the edge. And like you said, it was kind of like smoke and mirrors with him. It's like, okay, do we leave him open? Do we not leave him open? You know, kind of thing. But he really didn't like
Yep.
give you that offensive, like, oh my God, here comes, you know, saying here comes my boy Smart trying to make some crazy. But no, I mean, I totally agree with you there with him.
Yeah, Marcus Smart. One thing about Marcus Smart too, like when he was in Boston, like he was a bulldog every minute he was on the court. Every minute, like he was built like a football player. He played basketball almost like he played like a football player almost. I remember an old friend of mine back in the day said, "Why didn't he play football?" Like that was the kind of guy and Marcus Smart was. But just back to like the fits of these role players, like we could go back all the way to the Jordan Bulls. Steve Kerr had by far the best years of his career, not just hitting big shots. He had by far the best statistical years of his career when he was on the Bulls because he was a perfect fit off the bench.
I, I
Like he just like how John Paxson was before in the first three-peat.
I hate it when you do that, John, but you took the words right out of my mouth. But I was going to go right to Dennis Rodman. I was going to get that was my next hit. I was going to go right to Dennis Rodman. I was going to say, is that man,
But he
you know,
fit
yeah,
everywhere.
when you get those pieces though, but see, the Bulls, once again, though, this is an organizational thing, man. When you know who you need, when you know what the pieces are, because you know what? Let's be honest with you. I mean, Horace Grant was okay, but who brought the toughness? Who really brought the toughness to the Bulls on that second run? It was Rodman. He brought that
Yep.
Detroit. I don't give a crap. I'm going to go out here and take care of my business and get my rebounds and heckle you, get in your head. He really brought that toughness, man. And, you know, word on the street is that my boy Mike really loved that man, loved him to death because he was like, he brought some pieces to them that they did not have. And who was that? Was that Cartwright for that first run? Um,
Bill
Bill,
Cartwright, the center.
yeah,
Yep.
Bill Cartwright
Bill
for the first
Cartwright.
run, and I thought that Dennis Rodman kind of took that role. Like when Cartwright went on,
Mhm.
then Dennis Rodman kind of came in and filled that Bill Cartwright role. That toughness. I'm going to get
Right.
rebounds. I don't care if I score 15 points, but Bill was averaging. We'll go through corrections, but Bill was averaging over like 13 rebounds a game. I mean, it was crazy during,
Yeah.
yeah, during that run, and you know, and then you bring in. So I agree with you. I say beyond football, man, just because I believe that there's 11 people working as one, and fit is so important, man, because you got 11 people, 22 total people on the football field trying to operate as one entity.
Mhm.
It is so hard to say that fit is not a thing, you know. And then we've seen it on the opposite end, John. I mean, look at LeBron and the people that he's tried to get together, and it doesn't work. You know, I mean,
Right.
we can look at it at the
And I
opposite end.
think
We can look at it at the things like when LeBron tried to get with this, when KD went to the Bronx, and it didn't work. I mean, pull up
and
many,
now in
we can
Phoenix.
pull up many examples where it didn't work, or Chris Paul with his, you know, magical mystery tour trying to be the last big three, you know, and it's just not working.
Hey man, if he didn't get hurt in that series back in 18 against when he was with Houston that first year when he and James Harden were playing together in Houston, if he didn't get hurt, they probably would have beaten the Warriors that year though.
No,
I mean,
you know
we
what?
can I mean that's all
And
hypothetical.
but
But
I agree with you 100% that if he doesn't get hurt, because you know what? Once again, and he's one of those guys that just realizes his role. He doesn't try to get out, man. He's not trying to score 25 points a game, man. He's a facilitator, and he's accepted his maturation during his career and what he's becoming. And that's what I like about Chris Paul, because Chris Paul doesn't try to go outside of himself. He ain't lining up for, you know what I'm saying, taking a gazillion threes and stuff like that. He's a facilitator. He's a quarterback. He's
and
almost the closest
and when
thing
he was in
now as a quarterback, because I think we get, once again, subject for another day, but I think the point guard is dead. And I would love to bring this up on another show. I think the point guard in the NBA is a dead position. And I think
well when you think a point guard like I would say like the I don't know if I'd say the point guard is dead as much as I would say the strictly facilitator that like
sure.
that kind of player is dead. Like like the point guards you're looking at, like of the future, are like a De'Aaron Fox or someone like that. But at the same time, like even like Luka Doncic is playing point guard, and he's not, Luka Doncic and LeBron are like primary ball handlers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of, that's a tough subject. That's definitely a good one we'll cover another time. You mentioned LeBron, like how throwing pieces together aren't fitting. We're seeing that with our hometown team now, Coach. The pieces the Bucks are throwing together are not fitting either. I mean, right now, I feel like what's going on is the Bucks are just like, especially since I feel like they went into panic mode after they lost to the Heat a couple when Jimmy Butler just went absolutely crazy in that round series. I feel like the Bucks just went into panic mode. Like, I got excited when they got Damian Lillard, but because it was Damian Lillard. But deep down, like I was like, okay, they're losing Drew Holiday. Like, I'm not really sure how this is gonna work. And quite frankly, my suspicions have been confirmed. And now it's like obviously Middleton is declining as a player, but it's like for Kyle Kuzma. I mean, we saw how the Lakers shipped him out. I
think that they were grabbing. I think they were grabbing for straws, John. I mean, and just to clear the air to our awesome soon-to-be fans out there, is that there's only two things in Wisconsin sports that John and I typically agree upon. Okay, two things. And that is the Bucks, because that is my number one team. I kind of moved up here without a football team when a basketball team when I first moved up here. So I'm like a super Bucks fan, just like my boy Johnny is. And then it's the Brewers. So I do have to say, and I am a closet Atlanta fan because I kind of grew up an Atlanta fan. But one thing that John and I do agree with when it comes to the sports team area of this is 100% the Bucks and the Brewers. So when we get into baseball and stuff like that, you kind of see us kind of maybe match up a little bit more, because I am a super Brewers fan and everything like that. But I agree with you 100%, man. I think when they brought the coach on, I just think that was a panic move. I just think that from the time that they brought Doc on, when they brought Doc on, you saw them pushing the panic button. And I think that it was something to please Giannis. It was somebody, some upper on that team that was not. And I think that the only person that can make a organization make moves like that is a person like Giannis. Now, this is just pure speculation, but I think that the only person on that team that can that's a superstar and they're outright in the league that can make a organization notice, because we know that Milwaukee is not a big market team. We understand this. They're not a big market team. There's not some place where everybody is like hampering to go to. Lillard kind of just went there because he was just traded. It wasn't.
Giannis built the brand.
What's
really.
That?
If you want to think about it, Giannis built the brand, really. If you think about it, because think about it, like all this stuff happens. So Giannis gets drafted. Giannis was ultimately anonymous, and obviously Giannis didn't. I wouldn't say Giannis's presence had as much to do with like the new arena being built, simply because that happened after Giannis's rookie year when he showed flashes, but you didn't know he'd become the player that he would. Some people say, "Oh, I knew that." I'm like, yeah, there's no way to predicted that at the time. But back to what I was saying, like, but Giannis, like ever since, because they, obviously they secured the funding for the new arena back in was that 2014, 2015? That was when like Lazarine Edens bought the team from Herb Cole. Yep. And then they committed all the money to the arena. Herb Cole put $100 million more. And then, but after they secured all of that, that's when Giannis had his meteoric rise. And just his background, his personality, and obviously his game more than anything, that put Milwaukee on the map. It did. It, like, as a basketball town, because like you say, Milwaukee's not, Milwaukee's not, a hot destination at all. Milwaukee's probably one of the coldest destinations, pun and no pun intended there. I mean, it's like, one, it's cold, and two, it's just not the destination that, it's not the destination Chicago is, let alone Miami or LA.
It's just not that market. You know what I'm saying? It's just not the LA market. where it's not even like the Dallas Cowboys are for Dallas. I mean, people talk about that, man, but that's a big market. You're on TV every other week. You're on national televised every pretty much every week. I mean, to tell you the truth, there's very little. I would probably say there's like three games, 4 games maybe out of the 17 games that are played that I actually can't watch my Cowboys, or I have to like go to another place to watch it, which is not like other, not like other teams. Even if I'm on the West Coast, I could probably always catch a Cowboys game. I mean, like 100%. So and I think I think the Bucks are similar to like just not being that big market.
Right. But see, but the thing is, and like, but having Giannis around has gotten the Bucks more of that national attention because, look, TNT or ESPN, it's like people want to see Giannis play. You know how it is. So it's like, and I think his presence alone has kind of given the Bucks that brand. But unfortunately, that brand right now is dissipating, among other factors. I mean, we could go into all the other factors, how the Bucks don't have any draft capital anymore. They've just been ring chasing, in my opinion. Like you said, the panic button when they hired Doc Rivers, all that. I mean, but just all of that combined, the brand is wearing off. No. I mean, and I was watching First Take yesterday, and they talked about, like, they had a segment on should Giannis ask out after this season if the Bucks lose in the first round. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I mean, there's a part of me that felt like the Bucks maybe should have traded him. A lot of people, if they hear me say that, they'd be like, "You can't be serious." But I mean,
hey man,
get those draft picks.
It's a game, and you know what? Other than, I mean, to be honest with you, man, in basketball, draft picks are like gold. They're like gold for you to use pieces to get your pieces right away. I mean, I'm saying like probably in every other sport, I would gravitate towards baseball because draft picks in baseball, I'm not so much draft picks, but I'm going to retract. Let's go back. I think like the farm systems is super important, but I think in the NBA, man, I mean, when you have those draft picks, they're even more because in the NFL, you might not turn out, and not people are like they're not held like gold like it is in the NBA. In the NBA, it's like, man, if you got a first round draft pick, and if you got 2 first round draft picks, man, you can go and you can get a LeBron James for them. You can, I mean, a team in a second would be like, yeah, you gonna give me 2 first round draft picks? You gonna give me 26 and 27? Hey, LeBron, bye. I can build future. Then I can use those draft picks or collateral to get somebody else like you, to get a Durant or something. I'm just saying that currency, man, for those draft picks are important, and I just think that the Bucks has to make. But the thing about it is, Giannis wants to be here, and and everything like that. But Johnny, I think it's that time. I think I hear the imaginary bell ringing here. And it's about Johnny Talks and Smitty Rants, John.
Yes, sir.
I think it's about that time. I hear the imaginary bell ringing there, Johnny. And I think it's our time, guys. And if you don't know about this is our last, usually, segment of the day where Johnny tries to give a very non-emotional, calculated version of what he wants to talk about today, and I'm sorry I don't have that gene of things about me saying that there's certain things that I want to say, and maybe I might make somebody mad here and there. But either way, the segment that everybody's been waiting on, Johnny Talks, Smitty Rants.
Talks and Smitty Rants. Let's do it. All right. Well, we're switching back to football here. The Packers, a lot of the fans after that loss to the Eagles, where Jordan Love had a terrible game, and I'll get to that. That'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of my talk. The thing is, the Packers, what do they need to do? They are a good team right now, but what do they need to do to get to be a Super Bowl contender? And I think the 2 moves, and this seems to be a consensus, they need to get a big time receiver. I think T. Higgins would be perfect, but I think he's a pipe dream. I think he's a pipe dream. They did go grab Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney last offseason, who are 2 of the best at their own position. So that gives me hope, but I think he might be a little too steep for them. And I think right now, a lot of people, a lot of fans want them to get that. I think they also need a pass rusher. And a lot of fans, they want Max Crosby, and I would be ecstatic if they got him. But I think who would be easier to get, the Packers probably wouldn't have to give up as much to get him, is Myles Garrett. And he's got 2 or 3 elite years left. And he might not have as many elite years left as a Max Crosby, but Myles Garrett has 2 or 3 dominant years left. And if you're talking about a Super Bowl window, that might be the window there, and you could get that out of him for the next couple 3 years.
Defense.
I think, yeah, exactly. And I think honestly, if you do go into because the free agent market isn't that great this year, but I mean, this is a big if he can stay healthy, but if he can stay healthy, Chase Young could be a steal to pick up in free agency for the Packers. So, yeah, and finally, to the point though, like all of this stuff may not matter if what I saw this year from Jordan Love continues. And I'm not saying Jordan Love was bad, but Jordan Love just this year, he did not look like that quarterback who was going to get you there. He looked good, and I think he was playing hurt for a lot of the year. I really do. I think that game against the Eagles, I think he might have come back a little too soon from the injury he suffered in that game. And I think he was playing hurt all year, but he just made some decisions that I'm just like, what is this guy doing out there? I really was just like, I remember a couple of those pick sixes.
Dak Prescott 2.0.
What is going on?
Dak Prescott 2.0.
It's funny. Somebody on Facebook said the exact same thing, and I'm hoping that that's not the case. And the thing is, you get stuck between a rock and a hard place there, because you'll have people who will say stuff like, "Oh, well, you need a new quarterback. Jordan Love's not the guy." A Patrick Mahomes does not fall out of the sky. Tom Brady's not fall out of the sky. The question is, where do you find a better quarterback than that's of the pack, and especially with how much money they committed to him? So I'm willing to chalk this year up to just a little bit of a sophomore slump. He was playing with expectations. He was playing hurt. I still believe in Jordan Love. I really do. But if this year was a sign, it's one that means that the Packers could be a good team with him, but maybe not a championship team. But regardless, I think number one receiver, pass rusher are the big pickups that the Packers need to get to possibly vault to that next level. I'm done with my talk. So, Coach.
Okay.
Let's give it to everybody.
Okay, John. So I'm bringing my phone out here because I'm gonna do a nice little text to Jerry Jones real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna text Jerry Jones. All right, because I'm like, hey Jerry, I've got 2 names for you: Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. All right, both on the market, both being able to, help a team right away. And if I'm mistaken,
elite running backs.
And if I'm mistaken, Jerry, Derrick Henry actually owns multiple properties in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and said that it would, quote unquote, it would be one of the dreams of his to be a Cowboy. But yet, Johnny, we don't sign either one of them. We don't even get in the race. So you're telling me that they wouldn't have won us at least 5 more games. So you're telling me to be able to slow down the rock. I mean, look what it's done for Baltimore. Look what it's done for Jalen Hurts. I mean, you took Jalen Hurts. Once again, I've already told you that on the Smitty meter, I give him a 5 on where he's at right now for his the overall impact or legacy on his team. But Saquon gets a 9 because he came in this one season and just made it different. I mean, I think that they said that he is the running back, Jerry, and I'm talking to Jerry here. He's the running back, Jerry, that set the league, that's got the 2,000 yards in the less rushing yards in history. He made 2,000 yards with the less touches in history, with a non-throw first quarterback. Less touches in history. Not with Patty Mahomes, not with Peyton Manning, not with Tom Brady, not with Brett Favre, not with all of these throw first quarterbacks. But with Jalen Hurts, that averages anywhere from 20 to 25 throws a game. Not completions, but just throws. Just throws.
Attempts.
Just attempts. So I'm sorry, Jerry, but year after year, when I see people we pass on thrive, and especially a team that is in our NFC East, my heart is broken. I've been a Cowboy fan I am 45. I've been a Cowboy fan since I was 10, Jerry. 10 years old. And I'm getting the end of my rant here. 10 years old, Jerry. I've watched it. I watched Emmett. I've watched The Playmaker, which is probably one of my favorite receivers. I love me some Michael Irvin, by the way. I am a Michael Irvin fan. And then even Deion Sanders has played for 3 different teams, but you know where his heart is? You know who he mentions more than anybody? He don't mention the San Francisco 49ers. He don't mention the Atlanta Falcons. He mentions the Dallas Cowboys. And he's on a first-name basis with you, Jerry. If he calls you, you'll pick up the phone. Same thing with him. So I'm just saying, Jerry, I am disappointed. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. I wish I could send those pictures to you because Derrick Henry, I'm not paying that much for a 31-year-old back. 1,900 yards, Jerry. 1,900 yards.
With another run-first
quarterback. With another run-first, low-throwing quarterback. And he averaged over 6.5 yards a carry. All right, Johnny, I'll let you wrap it up. I'm done for the day because Smitty's rant, maybe 3 times out of the week, Jerry might come up. I'm just saying. He might just come up. But I'll try to diversify my rants and not hit too hard on Jerry.
Coach, he might come through for you guys one off season. Who knows? But this was Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny. Thank you guys for joining us. Leave any comments in the comment section. What do you want us to talk about? We're open to all subjects. We're just a couple guys who love talking sports, Coach.
Yep, and you know what, man? There is no right or wrong. Your opinion will always be looked at, just like with John and I. You've seen us throughout this talk is that, you know what? Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but in the great words of one of my favorite commercials, I didn't say I wouldn't go and get a beer with the man. I'm just saying I don't agree that the Packers are the best team. All right, I'm good.
All right. Smitty and Johnny signing off. Everybody have a good one.
All right now. Consider yourself entertained. Please make sure that you like, share, and follow.